Unsolved. Today, we journey across continents and through decades to explore documented events that continue to baffle investigators. These are real cases where evidence exists, witnesses testified, yet answers remain elusive. Join me as we examine mysteries that challenge our understanding of the explainable. The Dyatlov Pass incident. We begin on a wind-scoured slope in Russia's northern Urals, an expanse locals call Kholat-Syakhl, Dead Mountain. In January of 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out across this frozen wilderness. Weeks later, rescue teams found their tent slashed open from the inside. The group had fled barefoot and half-dressed into a night that could freeze exposed skin in minutes. Bodies turned up among the trees and in a nearby ravine. Broken ribs, internal injuries, one hiker missing eyes, another the tongue. Details that fueled generations of speculation. For decades, the Dyatlov Pass incident was a cold case wrapped in folklore, whispers of secret tests, Yeti attacks, even UFOs. But a new line of research has pushed back against the supernatural. In 2021, scientists demonstrated how a rare, compact snow slab avalanche might have struck hours after the tent was pitched, strong enough to crush without obvious external trauma and sudden enough to send even seasoned hikers sprinting into deadly cold. The theory doesn't solve every anomaly, but it shows how nature itself can wear the mask of the uncanny. Hinterkaifeck murders. From the cold of the Urals, we move to a quiet Bavarian farmstead in March 1922, Hinterkaifeck. The neighbors had begun to worry. Chores were undone, smoke didn't curl from the chimney, and the 6 members of the Gruber-Gabriel family, Andreas, his daughter Victoria, her children Cecilia and Joseph, the matriarch Cecilia, and the newly hired maid Maria, had vanished into silence. What the searchers found inside the barn defies the ordinary. The adults and young Cecilia were lured one by one into the dark and killed, likely with a mattock. Inside the home, the youngest children and the maid had been murdered too. The killer, or killers, stayed for days, feeding the cattle, cooking meals, even sleeping in the house while the bodies lay covered in straw. Suspects ranged from resentful neighbors to spurned lovers to opportunistic thieves, but no arrest ever held. To this day, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain a brutal riddle. A family annihilated, a farm steadied by the hands of their unseen murderer, and a community left to live with the echo. The Mary Celeste, Atlantic Ocean, December 1872. A merchant brigantine, the Mary Celeste, rides the swells under partial sail. The ship is sound, the cargo intact. There's food and water for months, a few feet of water in the bilge, concerning but not catastrophic. The lifeboat is gone. The log's last entry is days old. No captain, no crew, no signs of struggle. Of all ghost ship tales, the Mary Celeste is the patron saint. Theories roam, from accidental poisoning by alcohol vapors to a panic after a squall, from piracy to mutiny, but none fit cleanly. The simplest possibility remains that the crew abandoned ship for the yawl amid a fleeting danger that soon passed, leaving the vessel to sail on without them. The sea forgives nothing, and it rarely explains itself. The lead masks case. Brazil, 1966, Vintem Hill, where 2 Brazilian electronics technicians, Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana, lay dead on a slope. Both wore formal suits. Over their eyes, peculiar lead masks, like the blindfolds of some bizarre ritual. No signs of violence. A notebook nearby carried cryptic instructions. Place the mask. After the effect, wait for signal. Some thought they were experimenting with spiritual seances or radio phenomena. Others that they'd been poisoned. Autopsies were inconclusive. The lead masks case endures because the details refuse to collapse into a single dull explanation. 2 men, trained in technology, seemingly preparing for an encounter, and whatever they expected, the only signal that answered was silence. D.B. Cooper. Thanksgiving Eve 1971. A man using the name Dan, or as the press misheard it, D.B. Cooper, hijacks a Northwest Orient flight, demands $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes, then jumps into a rain-black sky over the Pacific Northwest and disappears. Bits of the ransom, degraded by the elements, later turn up on a Columbia River sandbar. Over the years, every new clue sparks a theory. A seasoned paratrooper, a reckless amateur, a hoax that ended in a lonely grave among furs. In 2016, after 45 years of chasing ghosts, the FBI suspended active investigation, leaving Cooper to live forever in the liminal space between legend and ledger, real as a boarding pass, elusive as fog. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 departs Kuala Lumpur for Beijing and slips into one of the most perplexing mysteries in modern aviation. Satellite handshakes suggest a long arc over the Indian Ocean. Debris traced to the aircraft has washed ashore on distant beaches, confirming a sea ending, but not the how or the where. Search after search has ploughed the abyssal plains to no avail. In 2025, a renewed push began. Advanced autonomous vehicles sweeping miles of seafloor, only to be paused as weather turned, with authorities indicating a resumption later in the year. The story of MH370 contains all the elements of a primal riddle. A machine we believe we fully command, a sky we think we fully charted, and an ocean that reminds us we have merely skimmed its surface. For the families, unanswered questions are not abstractions. They are anniversaries, empty seats, and the ache of not knowing. Skeleton Lake. We climb now to 5,000 meters in the Indian Himalayas, to a small alpine tarn known as Rupkund, Skeleton Lake. When the snow thins, human bones emerge by the hundreds. For decades, locals told of an ancient pilgrimage, a storm of hailstones hard as iron, and a mass death by the water's edge. Recently, ancient DNA analysis deepened the mystery. The remains belong to multiple groups, including individuals with South Asian ancestry, likely centuries old, and others with profiles pointing to the Eastern Mediterranean, who appear to have arrived and died many centuries later. A lake ringed by mountains, a gathering of the dead separated in time, all lying under the same mirror of ice. Science has given us the when and the who in broad strokes. The why remains a quiet snowfield. These cases remind us that mystery isn't the failure of truth, it's an invitation to keep investigating. They exist at the edge of our knowledge, where instruments go quiet and certainties end. Some mysteries may eventually yield to new technology or fresh perspectives. Others may remain forever suspended between fact and speculation. What unites them all is their challenge to our assumptions about the world we think we understand. The unknown isn't always distant. It lives in the gaps between evidence and explanation, in the spaces where even our best tools fall silent. Thank you for joining this investigation into the unexplained. Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and remember that sometimes the most important discoveries come not from solving mysteries, but from learning to ask better questions.